Hey, this is Attorney Hamilton Rucker. Thank you for joining me today on my YouTube show. So, a question as I get as a real estate attorney is how's flipping worth the risk? Most people don't understand all the risk components that go into flipping houses. And it's very simple to see these TV shows and social media posts about people getting rich quick by spending a few $1,000s to flip a house, and overnight it's renovated and ready to go. So we're going to examine what really goes into house flipping and is it worth the risk. So to start off, some of the things you should consider is the harsh realities of house flipping. One thing that new house flippers don't understand is that most investors lose money on their first house flip. So when you get this money together and you have to go out to purchase a home, you might not know exactly what you're looking for. And some of those things could be anything from roofing issues, electrical, plumbing, anything that might have even been in your inspection when you purchased the house, but you couldn't see it or the inspector missed it. And those unexpected delays cost money. It runs up the entire cost of the project. And if you're not a person who's experienced in doing house flipping, you're going to get some nasty surprises. And that's how you eventually lose money. Another thing to consider is worker competition. When you go out and you have to find laborers to do some of the work that you need on a day to day basis, or even the trades like finish work on the inside and carpentry and electrical work, all these people also are competing for other jobs, and other contractors are trying to take away those great trades from your job because the focus is to get things done as fast as possible. So you're competing against every other contractor, house flipper, investor, and landlord that needs those trades that you're going to use on a daily basis. So you're competing against a very crowded market space. Another thing to consider are market cycles. So when you're starting off being a real estate investor, you have to be able to understand where exactly you are in the market cycle. There could be a buying season where buyers are really controlling the market and they can be able to name their price for a house because the sellers are desperate to sell. Maybe the equity markets aren't doing well. Maybe we're in a recession, or there's a lot of inventory in a specific location. That market cycle might be bad for you as a house flipper to try to get in there because it's just not the right time. And so the first one of those market cycles you'll see that we're talking about are booms and busts. And real estate moves in these cycles. Rising prices during and declining values during downturns or corrections, often triggered by interest rate hikes or economic slowdowns. So right now we're seeing kind of mid to high interest rates, and they've come down, but we have some uncertainty right now because of the new tariffs that have went into effect. And those tariffs are going to affect a lot of things. They can affect the interest rates that we're dealing with. They can affect a house flipper's ability to buy certain material. So I'm talking to a developer the other day, and he's trying to determine what the price of the house he's going to put on the market. But he's only about halfway done with building the house. And he can't come up with the pricing yet because he hasn't bought all the material for the house. So he needs doorknobs, he needs fans, he needs appliances. And all these things are going to be tariffed, and he doesn't know what rate they're going to be tariffed at. So he doesn't know how much he's going to have to pay for all these products that are going to go into his new real estate project. And so he can't figure out the pricing and where he's going to be at in the market. So another one to consider is that flippers rely on timing. And that's also goes hand in hand with boom and bust markets. House flippers depend on buying low and selling quickly at a profit. When the market shifts mid project, they're stuck with unsold inventory. Price drops or buyer hesitations can make a real effect for any type of house flipper, even at the high end of the market or the low level of the market. So, very similar to what I was saying about the developer, it's the timing. You just can't always get that right. So that's an unknown risk sometimes. And so you have to be able to get a feel of what's going on. Another issue to consider is leverage amplifies risk. Most house flippers use hard money loans or short term financing. If the market dips, carrying costs, refining issues, and shrinking margins can quickly turn into a flip, into a loss, a profit loss. So that leverage is something that we're going to talk more about when it comes to hard money lenders, because that is really how you get into the game, is using that leverage and having access to capital to buy properties without having to use all your own money. So the hard money trap, that's another risk that's associated with house flipping. And what are hard money loans? Hard money loans are short term, high interest loans typically used by real estate investors for financing quick property purchase, funded by private lenders and not banks, as based on a property's after repair value rather than the borrower's credit. So you can get these hard money loans. They're out there. You can Google them, and you have to be careful about who you're going to work with in your market, because these people are very savvy, and you're the one doing all the work to try to find a property that has a great value and then try to realize a gain at the end of the day. These hard money lenders make money off of the application fees you pay and the high interest rates that they offer. So today, common terms for a hard money loan might be anywhere from 10 to 15%. And I can tell you, as of January and February of 2025, I was seeing 15 and 17% interest rates. And just within the last few weeks, I've seen some hard money loans and the 12 and 14% rate. And that's much different than the loans you get at the bank right now that are anywhere from 5.5 to 6%. And those loan terms are short, and they also have high fees for the origination of the deal. So if you're the house flipper, you're going to have to pay application fees. You might even have to pay appraisal and inspection fees, along with points on that deal for originating the loan with the hard money lender. And those origination points could be 2 to 5% of the total loan that you're taking out. These hard money loans have short timelines, and they create pressure on the house flipper. So if you're not able to get your home fixed up and on the market quickly, and you're delayed by things like permit issues or shifts in the market, you still have to pay that monthly payment to the hard money lender, and they're pretty high. And you only have a short window to take on that loan. So many flippers don't qualify for conventional loans due to their own personal debt to income ratios, maybe even poor credit history. And these hard money lenders will give you the loans based on the value of the property. So that's why they're usually pretty attractive to house flippers. Another trap that we see over and over again is the social media lies. Everyone who's watched HGTV or goes through their TikTok or Instagram sees all these house flippers that are talking about all these amazing gains that they've gotten in these projects. And that's not always true. A lot of times they're not telling you about the losses and all the other drama and stresses that they have through most of these house flipping opportunities they go on. So, they'll show you the 50,000 to 150,000 flip, but hide the carrying costs, delays, buyer concessions, and inspection issues. And so you really have to ask yourself, are they even going to make any money on this deal? And that's really hard to decipher just from some Instagram posts and TikToks. I would recommend that if you're new to house flipping, you might want to consider being the facilitator. And being a facilitator really allows you to learn the market and figure out what's going on. And one of those ways to facilitate real estate deals is through wholesaling. And wholesalers find discounted properties and assign contracts to investors. They don't need to purchase or renovate the home. And it's a low risk entry with high exposure deal flow and learning how to negotiate real estate deals. So we're going to get into future episodes about wholesaling. And in some markets, we're saying where the government's actually cracking down on wholesaling, but it could be a really good way to learn how to buy and sell real estate deals. Another way to facilitate real estate opportunities is becoming a real estate agent. You get to learn contracts, local laws, and closing procedures, and then you get paid a commission while working on real deals. And at the same time, you're going to build a pipeline of opportunities and relationships with buyers, sellers, lenders, and contractors. And that's why I would say that maybe being a real estate agent is a really good place to start. You get real world experience without risking your own capital, and you master transaction flow and paperwork, and you'll be able to learn how to really negotiate real estate deals. So, not saying that real estate easy flipping is easy, it can actually be really difficult. And I think one of the things that people hear most about real estate is that it can be passive or a quick way to make a lot of money. And that's true. But if you really get down into house flipping, you might be able to get yourself just another job. And that could be a lot of work. Without a team or a system, you're doing everything: design, finance, hiring, scheduling. You're doing the marketing and the selling. And then if you don't know certain things going into a project, delays, mistakes, and cost overruns can really wipe out your profits early on. And so I would say if you're flipping without a structure, cash flow, or a pipeline of deals, you're not really going to be building that kind of wealth that real estate can provide for you. And in fact, you'll just be getting yourself a really high risk job. And that could really sucker you into a bad situation. And that's one thing I would have tried to avoid is by taking off more than you can handle, because you might just be getting yourself into a deeper hole. So, with all those things being considered, those are real day risks that occur with becoming a house flipper. But I still think that there's a great opportunity in house flipping. And if you really want to get into it, you should spend the time and the energy to really develop the skills and the relationships with different people in real estate so that you can be a successful house flipper. Thanks. Follow me for more. We're going to have a lot more information on how to become a real estate investor, how to become a house flipper, and how to improve so that you don't make the big mistakes that most people make getting into the real estate game.